You think you know Napoleon Bonaparte, the brilliant general, the Emperor of France, the short guy with a massive ego. Well, buckle up, because history left out a detail so absurd, so deeply weird, it almost sounds made up. After Napoleon died, someone stole his penis. And that was just the beginning. This wasn't just a case of 19th century grave robbing. His mummified member was put on display in Manhattan, described by a journalist as looking like a shriveled eel. It passed through the hands of doctors, priests, aristocrats, and collectors. At one point, it lived under a bed in New Jersey. Today, no one knows exactly where it is. But for nearly 200 years, Napoleon's penis had a career almost as dramatic as the man himself. It was laughed at, worshipped, doubted, and even blessed. It's been on the road longer than most rock bands, and its legend may be one of the strangest legacies in European history. Before we get to the stolen goods, let's rewind to the man himself. Napoleon Bonaparte was born in Corsica in 1769 to a modest but noble family. As a young man, he rose rapidly through the military ranks during the French Revolution. His strategic brilliance was unmatched. By 1804, he declared himself Emperor of the French. Napoleon's ambition had no ceiling. He defeated Austrians, Prussians, Russians, and forged treaties that redrew the map of Europe. He crowned himself, not the Pope, during his coronation. He wanted to be in charge of every symbol of power. But with power came enemies, and with enemies came paranoia. He became obsessed with propaganda, image control, and personal myth-making. He had his portraits altered to make him look taller, more commanding, more divine. He surrounded himself with artists and historians whose only job was to build the Napoleon brand. He was also famously superstitious. Some said he carried charms, avoided black cats, and once refused to march forward until his carriage driver sneezed. A good omen, according to his Corsican upbringing. This fixation on fate makes what happened to him after death all the more ironic. His sex life was also the subject of gossip across Europe. His relationship with Josephine was passionate and scandalous. His many mistresses gave rise to rumors of virility that clashed sharply with the size and appearance of the object later claimed to be his most personal remnant. In 1815, after his crushing defeat at Waterloo, Napoleon was exiled to the remote island of St. Helena in the South Atlantic. There, surrounded by a small retinue and bitterly isolated, he lived out his final years writing memoirs, playing chess, and plotting imaginary comebacks. He complained endlessly about the damp climate, the British Guards, and his deteriorating health. According to his valet, he also suffered severe abdominal pain, ulcers, and insomnia. His dreams were reportedly filled with hallucinations of fire, glory, and humiliation. On May 5, 1821, he died, most likely from stomach cancer. An autopsy was performed by Dr. Francesco Annamarchi. And then, according to multiple sources, something strange happened. The doctor allegedly severed Napoleon's penis and gave it to a local priest. The reason? Well, some say it was a final insult, a bizarre act of retribution by those who hated him. One version claims the priest was acting on behalf of Corsican nationalists who wanted a relic of their native son. Others believe it was a twisted attempt to preserve a piece of greatness. Regardless of motive, the priest smuggled it out of St. Helena and back to Corsica, where it quietly disappeared into history for almost a century. One rumor suggests that the priest believed the relic had mystical or healing powers, that Napoleon's legendary vitality and ambition could be spiritually absorbed. Another tale claims it was once kept in a reliquary, and people touched it to cure infertility. Whether spiritual artifact or anatomical souvenir, it became the strangest trophy of empire. In the early 20th century, Napoleon's penis resurfaced, literally, in London. A British auction house put it up for sale in 1916, calling it a dried anatomical specimen of imperial provenance. Bidding was hushed. Buyers were discreet. In 1927, it was purchased by Dr. Abraham Rosenbach, a wealthy Philadelphia urologist and collector of rare books and medical oddities. He took the organ to New York and put it on display at the Museum of French Art. The reaction? Morbid curiosity. The object was described by a Time magazine reporter as looking like a piece of leather or a shriveled eel. Viewers were fascinated and horrified. One art critic called it the most pitiful artifact in the history of empire. It was even said that some French dignitaries protested the display, calling it a disgrace to national honor. Others accused Rosenbach of possessing a fake. Some visitors reportedly knelt before it, jokingly treating it as a relic of divine masculinity. One particularly surreal anecdote: a woman fainted upon seeing it. Another claimed it looked nothing like what she expected of a man, so mythically virile. Rumors spread that it had magical properties. Ironic, considering its lifeless, dried-up appearance. But Rosenbach soon removed it from public view. The artifact was controversial, too absurd even for the Roaring Twenties. So he placed it in a velvet-lined case and hid it like a forbidden relic of a fallen god. Eventually, Rosenbach sold the relic to a private collector. It would change hands again until, in the 1970s, it was acquired by Dr. John K. Latimer, a Columbia University urologist with a passion for history and strange memorabilia. Latimer was no ordinary collector. He owned medical instruments used on Hitler, the bullet that killed JFK, allegedly, and Lincoln's bloodstained collar. To him, Napoleon's penis was another piece of the grand historical puzzle. He kept it in a suitcase under his bed in New Jersey, where it remained for decades. Occasionally, journalists were allowed to view it, always with the same reaction: disbelief. "It looked like a desiccated finger," said one writer. Another called it a relic of egomania. Latimer allegedly used it as a conversation starter at dinner parties, revealing the artifact only after dessert. His guests would burst into laughter or recoil in horror. Some even claimed it was cursed. Bad luck followed guests who mocked it too much. One man allegedly crashed his car 2 days after making fun of it at a dinner. After Latimer's death in 2007, the penis vanished from public view again. Its current location? Unknown. Rumors suggest it may still be in private hands, or possibly locked in a vault, awaiting the next chapter of its surreal journey. Napoleon was obsessed with immortality. He wanted to be remembered as a godlike figure, more than a man, less than divine. He even referred to himself as the heir of Caesar. So the idea that his severed genitals became a traveling sideshow is not just ironic, it's tragicomic. He tried to control every detail of his story, but even in death, history refused to obey. His penis, stripped of dignity and meaning, became a grotesque symbol of the very thing Napoleon feared most: ridicule. It was poked, prodded, measured, debated. It became a museum attraction, a collector's joke, a tabloid curiosity. As empires fall, so too do their myths. And sometimes, their myths fit in a display case. Even modern comedians have riffed on the story. It's appeared in sketch comedy, dark history podcasts, and satirical memes. The myth continues, long after the man has faded into marble. One French historian dryly noted, "Napoleon conquered Europe, but in death he could not conquer curiosity." Despite the wild claims, the truth is uncertain. There is no definitive proof the object was ever part of Napoleon's anatomy. No DNA tests were ever performed. The chain of custody is patchy. The preservation was sloppy. Some historians argue it could have been animal tissue, or even a medical fake crafted for money or mischief. Others note that 19th century autopsies were rarely documented with the precision we expect today. The original death report makes no mention of dismemberment, though gaps exist in the official St. Helena records. Some biographers believe the whole story was fabricated by Rosenbach to enhance the artifact's value. But the lack of proof only fuels the myth. The mystery gives it power. Whether it was Napoleon's or not, the legend has legs. And maybe that's all that matters in the strange afterlife of history's oddest relic. Today, Napoleon is remembered for war, law, and ambition. But his most bizarre legacy is one he never imagined. Somewhere, perhaps under a collector's bed or behind a museum vault, a shrunken scrap of history waits to be rediscovered. It has traveled more than many living people, It has been smuggled, auctioned, hidden, mocked, and mythologized. It turned a man of legend into a punchline. And it reminds us that even emperors can be reduced to rumors and relics. Maybe it's better we don't know where it is. Maybe the mystery is the point. In a world where legacies are constantly rewritten, Napoleon's missing manhood remains a strange, shriveled footnote in the grand story of power, pride, and what happens when history goes rogue. One thing is certain. If history ever uncovers the truth, it'll make headlines stranger than fiction. But until then, Napoleon's most personal artifact remains the world's most infamous missing part, a relic both absurd and unforgettable. And yet, it's not the only body part that left a kingdom in ruins. If this story left you stunned, wait until you hear about Charles V of Spain, whose jawline wasn't just deformed, it may have single-handedly ended a royal bloodline. Check it out here.